Hey guys, what's up? This is Casey. This is Coach Tom. This is Shot Science Overtime number 136. And we're going to do what we do every week here on Shot Science Overtime at 1 p.m. Pacific time on Sundays. And that is we're going to have a topic that we talk about that we think is going to help you guys develop your game, make you a better player, hopefully give you some tools that will take you to the next level of your playing game or your playing days. And while we're doing that, you guys are going to send us your questions and comments. And we're going to do our best when we're wrapping up on that topic to get back to you guys and try to answer those things. So while we're doing that, send us those questions and make sure you go out and you tell your friends and family to come check us out because that just makes it more fun for us. And also make sure you're following us on all of our social media stuff. So Facebook, Google+, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, you name it. We are Shot Science on all of those things. And we are always there, always ready to talk to you guys. So make sure you follow us on that stuff. And make sure you're subscribed to us on YouTube. Okay, so our topic for today is how to be unselfish. So, you know, a lot of times we hear about people that are complaining about ball hogs, or they're worried about if they're being a ball hog, or you know, people just, they want to make sure that they're not thought of as being the selfish player, because that's kind of has a major stigma on a team sport like basketball. So what are some ways people can be unselfish?
Well, you know, like Casey said, that is a pretty typical situation that arises on team, is that you have a person or maybe a couple of people who don't really share the ball very much, and they're selfish because they want to take and drive up their points made per game, their shooting average, and the other things that go along with that. One of the things that I think is really important for us is that when you're playing, first of all, is look to see if you need to make an extra pass. If you take a look at professional basketball today, you're seeing a whole different program developing there in teams that are willing to share the basketball with one another, instead of it being a one-on-one contest where we have LeBron go against the best player of the other team one-on-one, or some other matchup like
It's
that.
like an isolation type deal.
Yeah, and if you take a look at how the
Game has changed.
well, the game has changed, but how teams like the Spurs and also like the Warriors, they have adopted this game where they're really sharing the ball. They're very unselfish, and you don't find people who are really trying to hog the ball and get most of the shots. Now, one of the things that happens, of course, when you're playing on a team with Steph Curry, they're probably going to take and have him get more looks because he's shooting at a phenomenal rate right now. And so they're going to give him more looks. But he shares the ball in an instant. If he sees that somebody else has a better look than him, he will get them the basketball. And so that kind of unselfish play where you make the extra passes usually develops into a situation where you get better looks too.
Yeah, and it's mostly too about opportunities and creating the best opportunities.
Right.
You know, when you're playing that isolation kind of game, that can get a little scary because you're limiting your options.
Right.
And let's say that your star guy, he's getting double teamed or triple teamed or whatever it is, and he's getting shut down. Where are the options there?
Yeah.
And if you're not making that extra pass or you know, doing something to create another opportunity, then you're in a situation where you start forcing things.
Yeah.
And forcing shots or forcing plays is really a great way to kind of have your effectiveness drop off really fast. And you know, making that extra pass, even if it's the star guys that are making these passes, that creates opportunities for everybody.
Yeah.
And typically that will create opportunities back again for you.
Sure. That's really true. I watched a little clip yesterday of the Warriors game, and it was kind of interesting, but very typical of the way they play basketball. The ball was at the point, and they threw it to the left wing. The left wing threw it to the post, who was coming up from the other side. And when he caught the ball in the post, without even a hesitation, he went right back out to the corner with the basketball, and they got a three look, which they put down. That's sharing the basketball and not trying to create something all by yourself. And so that's really important.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, people just need to realize that moving the ball creates opportunities because the defense has to react to that.
Yeah.
And they're in a situation where they have to react and recover, which means that you are a step ahead of what their program is.
Yeah.
And so the more that you're running passes and plays and making that extra pass, the more they have to play catch up, which is going to create more opportunities for you.
Very true. And one of the things that makes for unselfish play too, and you see that Steph Curry does this a lot, and so does Thompson, is that they create shots for their teammates because of what they do with the basketball. And that in itself is an example of unselfish play. You're willing to set up your other people so that they get good looks. How many times have you seen the ball move in one of the San Antonio games or one of the Warrior games where the ball makes 2 or 3 passes and they give that guy a lob at the basket because he's coming up and nobody's really paying much attention to him. So that sharing like that creates that unselfish play, and people like to play in those situations. They don't like to play in a situation where they don't touch the ball very much.
And it also, when you're in that situation where there's people like Steph Curry or Tim Duncan or whoever it is, they have a reputation going in that's going to dictate kind of a tighter defensive program from the other team.
Right.
So when that happens, they typically are going to collapse maybe multiple guys onto one guy. And so when that happens, what happens to the guy that was that other defender was guarding?
Yeah.
He's wide open, and you see that all the time in those situations, because now that guy is rotating off, there has to be somebody open because there's only 5 guys against 5 guys.
Yeah.
So when you make that extra pass, that can create that scenario too, where that's drawing the defense over to one side. That creates an opportunity for another teammate that gets open because the rotation shifted over.
Right. Well, and
take care of that threat.
Right. Well, and the thing that comes out of that too is that players begin to celebrate the things that are creating those shots. If you watch those teams that are using this kind of motion, either at the pros or even in the college game, you'll find that when something like this happens, they get excited about it. And when that excitement kind of carries over, winning plays like that should be celebrated. Not overdone, but celebrated a little bit.
Well, yeah, and if you want easy looks at the basket too, that's where you get those layups that are just, you wonder like what happened to the defense.
Yes.
And it's funny because there was somebody on Facebook yesterday or the day before that was saying something about how nobody is playing defense against the Warriors, and it's like, are you kidding me? They are trying as hard as they possibly can to shut those guys down. But their offensive prowess is really what makes the defense just completely break down, and that's why those guys get such open looks.
Yeah, and the thing that the Warriors and San Antonio do is they move players. You don't have players that are standing around very much. Once in a while, you get one who sets up in the corner on the baseline, but they're moving players and they're moving the basketball. And one of the things about defense is that you have to be able to keep up with them. A lot of times you have to anticipate where they're going to go and what they're going to do. And it's really difficult when there's so much motion and movement and so many opportunities for guys to get easy looks at the basket. And so this whole program, I think we're going to see a groundswell of this kind of basketball on the pro level and probably on the high school or the collegiate level as well.
Okay, so what are some other unselfish things? We got to hit some of these other things here.
Well, one of the things that comes out of playing with this kind of attitude, the unselfish play, is that we find that people begin to realize that the team is first and not individuals first. And teams that kind of come to my mind, and I don't really follow this particular team that much, but when I watch LeBron play, the game is about LeBron. And the other guys are just pawns there that kind of help him out. And that kind of play, I don't think is really good for team spirit or just a team attitude. Okay. And
but I mean, I would say that he's more apt to pass than some other guys. And there is a little bit of a team dynamic, but I don't think it's not like on the level of the Spurs or the Warriors.
No, it isn't.
And if you think back, maybe Carmelo Anthony, maybe a year or two ago, before all this Porzingis stuff, and kind of when New York was at their lowest, everything was getting forced through Carmelo Anthony, and you could see he was struggling, because he couldn't make things happen the way that he wanted to make it happen, and the team was essentially just relying on him,
right?
And it's easy to shut down those types of teams, even if it's the star player, even if it's the, Hall of Fame guy.
Right.
If it's only one guy, it's not going to happen for you. And that's like if you look back at like the Michael Jordan days, he had a supporting cast.
Yes, he did.
It wasn't just Michael. Even though he was willing wins, he couldn't have done that without Scottie Pippen or Horace Grant or Steve Kerr or fill in the blank.
Absolutely true. And so this unselfish play tends to create some real good team first attitudes for players on the team, and that makes the whole thing, the whole satisfaction, so much nicer when everybody is feeling good about what they're getting done for the team. I can remember maybe a couple of years ago, and oh gosh, I had a memory loss there. Plays for the Warriors, Draymond Green. Okay, and Draymond Green was an important player, and he got his job done. He played defense, he bounded, and all of that. But that's not who he is today. I think that was last week, and I can't remember who made this statement. They thought he was one of the top 10 players in the NBA right now. Well, he has developed into that, and a lot of that development into that player has been about how he is a team first guy. And once in a while you see him and everybody else maybe take shots maybe that are not with a team attitude, but for the most part, that's how they play. That's why they are so successful. And I think he's a good example of the development of that kind of team player, where you're putting yourself into an unselfish situation and you're willing to share here, you're willing to share there.
Okay, and
important dynamics in a game.
Yes. Okay. So here's some other things that you can do that are unselfish, and we talk about them all the time. But one of them is moving without the ball, because that creates a scenario where you are making the defense have to react again to what you're doing. You're also creating space to get open. You're creating opportunities for yourself and your team, and it's just a good way to go. And off of that, you can do things like setting screens, whether that's on ball or off ball.
Right.
You can down screen. You can flash the middle. There's all these things that you can do that they may seem like they are for you and about you, but it actually it is adding to the dynamic of your team and what the defense has to do to stay up with your team.
Right.
If you're flashing in the middle, you're drawing not only your guy, but everybody else has to pay attention to what's going on. And if you get hit with the ball, that's going to change kind of the dynamic of what the defense has to react to there too. And if you're setting a screen, that's unselfish. You're setting the screen. Who knows if you're going to get the ball out of that situation, but you're setting the screen, and that guy is going to be able to maybe get by his defender, or maybe set up another play or whatever it is. That is an unselfish thing to do. Or screening for a guy that is off ball, and you screen for him, and he's going to go and he's going to be able to catch the ball and have created space enough for him to create an opportunity to score or to pass or do whatever he needs to do.
Exactly. Well, and coaches oftentimes in coaching their teams and whatnot don't do much about star players sometimes, and they just let them have their reign and they can play however they want. The smarter ones, I think, probably tend to get the whole team involved on the offensive end. And when you get the whole team involved on the offensive end, you also have the whole team involved on the defensive end as well. And that's where you really are able to control people, is when you can play defense and you get ball movement, player movement, and guys who can really shoot it.
Yeah, and here's a few more things and that you can do that are unselfish. Diving on the floor for a loose ball. That's one of those things where you're sacrificing yourself to get the possession. Taking a charge, that's a huge one, because you're stopping a drive and you're, again, putting yourself on the line on that one.
Unselfish play.
Rebounding. You're not just standing around waiting. You're actually boxing your guy out or blocking him out, and actively going after the ball and getting the rebound and getting the possession back for your team. That's unselfish. But there's so many things you can do, and like we were talking about, make the extra pass. Sometimes that is all it takes to create a very simple and easy opportunity to score.
Absolutely.
And if you don't have the shot, or if you see a teammate that has a better opportunity for the shot, that's what you need to do. You need to pass up your opportunity. This is how it should be when you're on offense. If you catch the ball, the first thought for you should be, is this opportunity for me the best one for the team to score? And that might mean that you shoot or you drive or whatever. If it's not there, then you need to look for the other opportunities, which are going to be your teammates. And that's kind of those decisions that have to happen in like a split second.
And they do. When you get to be a little bit better player, you can anticipate a lot. what does anticipate mean? Well, anticipation means that you're looking ahead. You've got enough experience that you can kind of look ahead and see, okay, I think this could happen, and so I need to be ready for it, and that sort of thing. But this whole thing of being an unselfish player is really, really beneficial to every basketball team, every team of every sport, for that matter, not just basketball.
Right, and to kind of top that all off, if you go look at like our how to make the team video, we talk about all the qualities that coaches look for that are kind of aside from skills that are things that you should be built into kind of your player attributes. Right. And those are things that are unselfish, and it's like leadership, initiative, effort. Go look at that video and we talk about all those things, and those are the things that make you unselfish. And those are things too that make you the best team player, and the coach will see that, and that is huge to a coach when they see those kind of qualities.
Absolutely.
So if you're worried about making a team and you have tryouts, or if you are on a team and you want to start getting more playing time, or whatever the situation may be the unselfish person. Figure out these different kind of qualities that you can flip on, and also do these extra things on the court, and you will be in a good spot where your coach will realize that, and they'll see that, and your teammates will see it too, and it's good all around.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, are we good on that one?
We're good.
All right, you guys, so that's going to end our topic for today. If you have more questions about being unselfish, let us know in the comments. And right now we're going to jump into answering your questions. So if you have questions, send them to us here in the chat, and you can send them to us on Twitter or anywhere else you might find us, and we will try to do our best to get to everybody. Make sure you follow us on all our social media stuff. We are Shot Science on everything: Snapchat, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Google+, whatever it is, we are Shot Science.
Well, there's another thing that would be really cool is if you see Casey and I out in public someplace, come right up and chat with us. We always look forward to that. I had a basketball game last week, and when the game was over, we're going through and congratulating the other team. We come to the very last player on the team, and he shook hands with me and said, "You're Tom Curtis from Shot Science, aren't you?" And I said, "Well, yes, I am. How'd you know that?" He says, "I watch yours all the time." We enjoy hearing from you guys.
Yeah, we've met people in New York and Indiana and everything. It's really cool when we get to talk to you guys.
It is.
So yeah, and if you guys want to tell us what country you're from, that's always cool too.
That is awesome.
So just let us know in the chat what country you're from.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's jump in to answer these questions, and we're going to do the best that we can here. There's a lot of them already. Holy moly. Let's see. Jalen Watson asks, what is the best way to develop better handles if you were a center?
Okay,
number one.
Okay,
what do we say about position play? I'll let you even say that.
Well, we're not really crazy about people developing to be a particular position player, but we're really more into having you develop into a good basketball player. What happens is that if you're involved in a team, typically what's going to happen is the coach is going to take a look at you and the other players and assess where they're going to fit in that puzzle best. Maybe it's at center, but maybe it's not. And so what you should do is look at the skills here as being just true basketball skills. And what you need to do there is spend time on it. And I will tell you this, that if you spend time on your basketball skills, and I'm not talking about playing, I'm talking about where you drill it and you spend 20, 30 minutes and you're just working on basketball handles, your right hand, your left hand, and spending probably more time on your weak side, you'll be just really kind of unbelievable how quick you improve with your ball skills. And so it just takes time, but just going and playing is not the answer. The answer is get into a program for yourself where you are actually working with basketball drills for ball handling or for shooting. But the drilling in those situations is what really makes you the better player. And then once you've kind of got that down, then you can get into a team play after that.
Yeah, address your own skills because it's all on you to do that. And if you're not working on that diligently, dialing in your mechanics and all that of each thing, and then doing game speed, game intensity work on that stuff, then you will not advance. And the other thing is that people think that there's different approaches to training or practicing, whether you're a tall guy or a center or a short guy and a point guard or whatever the in-between spectrum might be. the actual reality of it is that it doesn't matter how tall, how small, how wide, how skinny, how, male or female or whatever it is all achieved the same way. You develop your handles the exact same way that the guy that's a foot shorter develops his handles.
Absolutely.
And it's all through doing the same kind of drills, the same kind of work, and all of that stuff. So make sure that you are working on those things. And also, like we were saying, it's important to be an all-around basketball player and not worrying about filling your position out.
Right.
Because if you're able to step into any position, you're going to be way more valuable than if you've only formed yourself into a center. And if you look at players, and we talk about this all the time, like Anthony Davis or Kevin Durant or fill in the blank. These are guys that probably would be pigeonholed as centers if they were just purely going off of their physical attributes of their height. But those guys are dominant players because they can play all positions, and they're tall guys that can do things on the perimeter that most tall guys can't do. Right?
Now, this next one there, Chris Epps, I'm a center.
Yeah.
You want to read that one?
Chris Epps says, I'm a center, but I have a real good three-point shot, and I also have great handles. Should I ask my coach to change my position?
You can ask, but he's probably not going to do anything about it here just because you ask. What he's going to do, he's going to see how you fit into the total program or the total picture for that team. If you're needed to be in a post, maybe you're big and all of that, then that's where he's going to have you play. If you rebound really strong, but you say you can shoot the three really well. Well, he may devise a play or two or three where you can get those looks. I wouldn't go asking him those questions. Whether you can shoot the basketball from the three-point line or not, he already knows that. If you've practiced and whatnot and been around him for a week or two, he knows what you can do.
Here's the thing. Just play hard, play with your skills, and your coach will address those if it is necessary.
Yeah, and most coaches are smart enough that if they realize they got somebody who can shoot the three ball, they're going to find a way to get you into it. But if you are also big and a good rebounder, then they want to keep you around the basket most of the time. So maybe there's a little bit of both there, but they will work that out. If you go ask them, you may not like the response you get.
Well, but I mean, there is a way to go talk to your coach and say, is there any chance? If it's really important to you, is there any chance maybe I could try out some time at the blah blah blah?
Yeah.
But like we said, that may not fall into the scheme of what the team thing is about, and it's not about you. You have to remember it's about the team. So, you have to kind of go in there very humbled and with humility if you're going to ask that kind of thing, and also expect that the answer is going to be no. Yeah. Okay, so let's see here. Fudley AF says, how can I dribble with my left hand when I can barely do it? That's simple. We have a video on it, and it's called How to Develop Your Weak Hand. And the very simple answer is you have to use it to actually have it.
Exactly.
And you have to do it consistently. And so I would say go check out the video, How to Develop Your Weak Hand. And we also have a bunch of kind of drill videos associated with that will help you figure that out.
And you'd be surprised how much that's going to change in a matter of a week or so if you just spend time on it.
Somebody's asking if I'm going to answer their question or not, and they just asked it. So you got to chill. We're going to get to as many people as we can. Let's see. This one is from Wu Lopez, who says, I'm 5'10". How can I hit hook shots over taller defenders? Also, I'm 126 pounds.
Well,
okay.
Go ahead, Casey.
Well, I'm going to say your height and your weight, you need to stop worrying about that kind of stuff. Those are things you have zero control over. When it comes to hitting hook shots, that is something where you have to get down the footwork first, and then you have to start working it up to game speed and game intensity, but you have to have all the mechanics in place. And so if you go watch our video on how to do it, start slow, break it down, and work up to being able to perform it. And if you're finding that guys are jumping up and they're blocking it, which typically is very hard, you need to make sure you have the counter move off of that. And that counter move is going to be the up and under move.
Well,
And if you do that, typically they're going to bite on the first part of it because it looks like a hook shot, and then you step under and get an easy land.
that's true. And then you may be faced with this issue is that maybe that's not a shot you can shoot against bigger guys. I mean, if they're dominating you and making it really difficult or impossible for you to get the shot off, then you have to have another answer. You can't just rely upon that particular move. One of the things that we talk about and deal with the players that we work with and train is that you have to have a bag full of things that you can do. And the bag is a little different on playing wherever you might be playing. But essentially, you've got to have good ball skills. You've got to have good shooting skills. You got to be able to run the floor, and you have to be able to defend. And so if you're on the offensive end, that bag of tools may be great handles. That might be having a great step back. It might mean the fact that you're able to go by guys and get to the basket. And so those are things that are really important. Whether you can shoot a hook shot over taller guys or not, that question is answered right away. If they block it a couple of times, then that's not in your program. That's not a tool that you can have in your box against the bigger guys. Okay. Find another answer, and there are other answers in our post videos that you could use that would help you there.
Yeah. Here's Charlie C, who says, I'm a senior in high school. I'm like 100 pounds at 5'5". How can I get better at driving in against taller and much bigger players? I am a little faster than most people on the court. Okay, here's the thing. Again, forget about the attributes of yourself that you cannot change all that much. And height is definitely one of them. Your weight, again, I'll address that in just a second. The main factor of you being able to make those driving moves is that you need to have the offensive tools to be able to pull it off.
Absolutely.
And, people always complain about, oh, I'm not getting by this guy. There's so many things that you need to work on to develop to make that happen.
Yep.
And your offensive toolbox needs to include things like the jab step. It needs to include things like the hammer. It needs to include things like the diamond and a crossover step and these shot fake and these things that happen before you even put the ball on the ground. Then once you put the ball on the ground, you have to make sure that you are going hip to hip off of that guy and you're reaching out, long 1-and-1, pushing the ball out so that you have to catch up with it, keeping it higher than you would normally dribble the ball so that you can push it out and get by that guy. And when you take that step, you step past their foot so that when they have to try to catch up, it's a recovery situation and you're already a step ahead of them. And you have to be ready and willing to accept contact.
Yeah.
If you are not ready and willing to accept contact, then you're out of luck. And the thing is that if you're ready and willing to accept contact and you're doing all those things, going hip to hip and stepping out long 1-and-1, if they bump you and they bump you off course or whatever, the foul is going to be on them. So it doesn't matter if you weigh 100 pounds or if you weigh 200 pounds. If they bump you and they reach in or they push or they grab or whatever, that is a foul. And so you're fine. But you have to play like you didn't get fouled, because you need to make sure that you're tough and you're getting to the basket. And so you need to get those tools in your pocket first. And then there's somebody under here saying you need to hit the weights. Worst advice you could get. Because we see players all the time in high school and even in middle school and stuff, and they're talking about how they're going to go hit the weight room and do all these things and it's going to change their game and all that. I will be the first person to tell you every time that working out in the weight room will help you on such a small level compared to if you would spend that time developing your skills. The payoff is way bigger, especially when you're a younger person, like in high school or younger. It is way bigger if you spend that time working on skill development, working on conditioning, and working on athleticism than if you spent that time working on weight training and resistance training and things like that.
Very true.
Because you could spend 2 hours in the gym every day, and sure, you might get stronger and gain muscle and all that stuff and weigh more and all that. But
what about your ball skills?
What if you would have spent that 2 hours working on your shooting, your free throws, your ball skills? I mean, your conditioning, your athleticism. Those are things that are immediately important in basketball. When you get to the higher levels of basketball, like playing in college or definitely playing in the NBA, you have to do things to give you that slight edge and be able to play with those genetic freaks that you find at those levels, where those guys are just monsters, and you have to be able to have this, similar bodies to those guys. In high school and lower, it does not matter, and you are wasting your time if you're spending your time in the weight room.
Yeah, very true.
And I did it. I spent a bunch of time in the weight room. Wasted time. It is much better spent working on your ball handling. And people hate to hear that, because they want to be they hear the influence of other people saying you should go in the weight room, you should do squats, you should do bench press, and blah blah blah. Spend that time working on your ball handling. Spend that time working on your shooting. You can see that it works for people that are like Kevin Durant. That guy, he could barely do a push-up when he got into the NBA. And, his skills were on a level to where his physical attributes didn't really negate his ability to play. So, that's kind of the approach that you should have too. Spend your time, prioritize, and I can tell you that the weight room is not the place to go. All right. Let's see. Let's go to somebody new here. Jay Scarborough says, I know I can make my jump shots, but when I get in games, I freeze up and I don't take open shots. Is there anything I can do to help?
Well, that's such a common problem. And the problem is this: you're afraid you're going to miss. And what happens is that a lot of players play out of fear. And so they never really put shots up. In our game last Friday, one of our guys who can shoot the ball pretty well, he's kind of young. He had about 5 looks and he didn't take any of them. And so he came off the floor and I kept saying, why aren't you shooting the basketball? Well, that guy's getting in my face. Well, he wasn't getting in his face. I had a clear view of it myself. But he was afraid to shoot because and finally we talked about this, you were afraid you're going to miss. Well, yeah, coach, I was afraid I was going to miss. Well, you can't play in fear. You got to go, and you're not going to hit all the shots you shoot in any case. But you never make a shot that you don't take.
Well, and here's the other thing I was going to say too, is that we have a video on this as well, and it's called Make and Practice Missing Games. Yep. And if you are finding that you are just money in practice and you go into games and you're missing, it might be what you said. It might also be the fact that you are not practicing at game speed and game intensity.
That's an important point, really important.
Maybe you're going in and you're just practicing your shot casually. There's no defense, there's no pressure, there's nothing. And yeah, that's easy to make those shots. But add in the factor of defense, or add in the visualization of defense, amp it up to game speed and game intensity, and start working on that. And you'll find that when you get into games, it'll feel like you've actually been there before. So, I mean, it might be a mental thing where you're worried about all the other influences that are going on, but it might also be that you practice differently than you play, which is not really a great translation. Right. So go check out our video on that.
That's the way most young players are. They don't practice at game speed, and then all of a sudden the speed of the game, fatigue and whatnot begins to take you out of the game. You don't want to prepare for all of that.
Yeah, I mean, you will perform the way you practice. So if we see it all the time. You see kids that are just shooting, they're doing fadeaways, or they're shooting like 30-foot three-pointers, or they're just playing with their buddies and stuff. That doesn't translate to game situations. Yeah. There's very few times where you will be casually shooting a fadeaway or shooting a 30-foot three or whatever it is. You will have defense in your face. Yep. You will have somebody trying to stop you from doing what you're trying to do. And you will have to perform it at as high a speed as possible to where you can still perform it.
Exactly.
So get to working out like that. Okay, let's see. This one is from Splash Bros, who says, what are some three-point drills to be like Stephen Curry? Okay, that's easy. Mm-hmm. The first step is to actually work on your shot in a progressive manner. And we always say start with the form shooting drill, because the form shooting drill will help you dial in your mechanics, and it also gets you started off close to the basket, because one of the big mistakes people make is that maybe they do work on their shot close, but then as soon as they're done with that, they step back to 20 feet and they're trying to shoot those shots.
Yeah.
And that is not the way to do it, because your mechanics break down if you haven't worked up to that. So you start out with the form shooting drill, you work on mastering each spot close to the basket. Once you master that, you take a step back, master that, take a step back, and eventually you'll get back to the deeper range and you'll have that range.
Right.
Then you have to amp it up to game speed, game intensity, and you can do that using this drill series called spin shooting from one of our friends, Coach Dennis Stanton.
Right.
And he has this whole workout that shows you exactly kind of the way you should approach your practice if you're trying to develop your shooting, especially from range, and also work on your free throw shooting and all that stuff, and conditioning down the stretch, and making sure your shot is there. So that is how you should really approach it. There is no 3-point shooting specific drill that really will make you a great 3-point shooter. You have to work up to it, and you have to put yourself into the game speed, game intensity situations.
Exactly.
And the other thing about the spin shooting thing is that you can do it by yourself, which is probably what most people want to do or need to do. Okay, let's see here. Let's hit another one. This one is from Mr. Big Shot 212. It says, how to get on a Division I college without having played high school. That's real tough.
It is really tough, really tough. I don't know the answer on that one.
The answer is you kind of have to play something before, whether that's traveling team basketball or whatever. Maybe you could walk on, but that's real difficult to do.
It is. And, most of the people that end up getting to play in a Division I college, and the number is really very small from year in, year out, in the number of players that actually are taken. I think I read something, there are about 350 players per year that kind of get into the NBA or into Division I basketball. And so the chances are kind of small. But if you haven't played in high school, your chances are probably small to none. And so you have to find a way. Now, most of the recruiting that's taking place in this country now for Division I or any collegiate basketball has to do with playing on club teams. Sometimes they're referred to AAU teams, but they're not all AAU. These club teams oftentimes will take you, if you're one of their players, out to play in national tournaments. And national tournaments might mean that you're playing in Houston, Texas, and all the college coaches in the country are able to come and watch those games. Now, the thing that's really interesting about that whole thing is that there are certain time periods where the college coaches can't go to those tournaments. And so the guys who are developing those tournaments are now trying to take and set those up so that they are in the periods where the coaches can go and see them play.
Okay, anyway,
but you got to be there and play some kind of basketball like that. High school basketball is not a shoe-in anymore.
Well, here's the thing: is that people think that just because they want to play Division I basketball, they will be able to. Yeah. That is not the case. No. Playing on any level of collegiate basketball is not easy. And to play Division I basketball, you have to be a combination of skills and body type and all these things.
Right.
And typically, every single one of those players was a known quantity on their high school team or their traveling team, and there's almost never a surprise that comes out.
That's really true.
That plays Division I basketball.
Yep.
Almost never. Maybe occasionally from overseas or something like that, but people generally show up in Division I basketball because they have a track record of playing at a high level, even on their high school team or whatever it is. So you need to address whether that is a realistic expectation or desire, and for most people it's not. And if it's not, then maybe look into some other things like playing junior college. Well, there is, junior college players do move up to higher divisions of basketball.
They do. Yeah.
But still, again, that's not a shoe-in either. You have to try out for teams. You have to, realize that you might not make the team if you go to that school. There is going to be, 15 or less guys on that Division I team, and that is out of tens of thousands of people that want to be on that team.
Yeah, and even the walk-ons on those teams are really good players typically.
Well, they're Division I players.
Here's the other thing that's real important to remember is that Division I basketball is not the only level of collegiate basketball that is in existence. Division II basketball is awesome. Division III is awesome. And I say awesome in that the quality of play is outstanding at those levels. What you find is that oftentimes the players who are on Division III teams, they're not nearly as big, but most of the players there can really shoot it.
Yeah.
And you find that there's some place for you to play. There's another collegiate association called the NAIA, and NAIA has two levels, and I think it's an A and a B, and so there's a lot of places where you can go play basketball, and very few people make those Division I teams. Very few people.
Yeah, and here's the other thing too, and being on the internet, we see this all the time, is that everybody thinks that these kind of underrung levels of basketball are somehow easy to make it into or whatever. Like we work with kind of the D League Warriors team and talk to people a lot about the D League, and occasionally we'll talk about Division II or Division III basketball in college, and people always assume that they could somehow walk out and make some D League team.
Yeah.
The NBA D League Development League is NBA level players that have not made it into the NBA because of whatever circumstance.
Right.
Essentially, every one of those guys could play on an NBA team.
Yep.
But there is a very small number of people that play in the actual NBA. The same thing is true with Division I basketball. There's a very small number of people that get to play there. There's people in Division II that could play Division I basketball.
Absolutely
There's
true
people
there.
in Division III that could play Division I basketball. There's people that play junior college basketball that could play Division I basketball. But you have to realize that you have to have expectations that are realistic to who you are and everything too. So it's not something where you can just walk out and play. And the reason we tell you that is because we don't want you to have these expectations and then just be crushed and not maybe go the way where you could actually get the ability to play.
Sure.
So evaluate all your opportunities and options and realize that even though the NBA D League or the Division 2 or 3 or whatever it is, these things are not the top rated or the top level of whatever professional or collegiate level. They're still high level basketball.
Very high level.
Okay, this one is from Edmar Gomez, who says, I coach a boys under 18 team and I'm having a tough time getting to think as a team. Any tips on what I can do on or off the court to get them thinking and playing as a team?
Gosh, that's a really interesting question. One of the things that comes to my mind right away is that if it's an under 18 team, I'm thinking this is probably a travel team, and that usually individual egos get in the way a lot on those types of teams. And so maybe it takes some time to set them down and to explain to them that you're all going to be far better off if you learn how to play together. You're going to be more successful. You're probably going to stand out more when a coach looks at you and realizes that you're really ready to share the basketball. If we go back to what we were talking about earlier today, where we're talking about unselfish players, usually when they're not playing together, it's because they're selfish. They want the opportunities. And when that's the case, then usually what happens is that they turn out not looking very prominent themselves because they take improper shots, they take and make poor passes. There's a whole bunch of things that get into it. So maybe setting them down and telling maybe, okay, this is kind of a situation that I'm seeing here. We can't be successful as a team if we do this. We need to take and follow these guidelines. And maybe have 2 or 3 or 4 guidelines that you want them to follow. One of them that I think is really important is that we don't take a shot until we've had at least 4 passes. Okay, and 4 passes means that 4 different people probably are going to touch that basketball. And then when we begin to become less selfish, then we're also going to probably find that the whole team and the individuals become more productive because of that.
Yeah, and here's another thing you can do too, and that is, like you were saying, I think that it's good to have a few kind of rules and regulations, but I think it's also good to practice those guys and make it so that they are making those extra passes and doing those things.
Exactly.
Also, maybe developing an offense that is kind of a motion offense where you are encouraging them to flash, to set screens on ball and off ball,
right,
to move without the ball, kind of slip screens, different kind of ball reversals and things like that, where it's more about having them play and move without the ball than it is about having set plays.
Right.
Because then they can go out there, they can just play, but they're also creating these different opportunities and things too. And if you're encouraging them to move without the ball, I mean, that's going to encourage them to create other opportunities that their teammates are going to see and want to hit them for. So some of that is going to be kind of like your infrastructure and how you set that up.
Yeah.
But you're the coach, you're the boss.
Yeah, and these are the kind of things that coaches face every day with a team, particularly a newer team that you maybe aren't that well acquainted with. The players come in and they want to assert themselves. To let you know that they're really pretty good. And so you have to learn to take charge of the whole situation. And maybe you do it, first of all, individually. And I've done that over the years, is I'll find somebody who is really just kind of taken too many liberties. And I'll talk to them after practice. Maybe we'll go down and we'll have something, a drink or something. Say, okay, here's some things I think will really make it beneficial for you and for your team if you would do. And just this one-on-one situation, oftentimes you're able to get through to them a lot easier than if you've got a whole collection of guys around and you're trying to talk and get to this one or get to that or get at all of them. When you separate them out one-on-one, usually you have better communication.
Yeah, and one of the things you can do too is you can identify the people that might be good leaders and take them aside and encourage them to kind of showcase that. And another thing is that maybe you can create an atmosphere where if good plays happen, the guy takes a screen, makes a shot or whatever, that the whole team celebrates and claps and gives that guy a high five.
Exactly.
Or that when a guy comes off the floor, everybody stands up and gives him a high five and says good job or whatever it is. Or you create a situation where there's a ton of communication going on. So if a guy comes off the floor, he's communicating with the guy that's coming on the floor and saying, "Hey, pick up this guy," blah blah blah. Whatever it is, you need to create the team atmosphere where it feels like everybody's being supported and creating some cohesion.
Well, and that's one of the things that we said early on when we started today, and that is that we want to create a team attitude. It is not an individual attitude. It is a team attitude. And that'll take some work on your part, Coach.
Yeah.
That'll be testy for you.
Good luck, and let us know how it goes. And
we'd love to hear. And if you come up with some really good ideas that work for you, let us know that too.
Yeah, and let us know if maybe you need some more help, and we'll try to help. Okay, here's one from Michael Temensko, who says, "How do I do a 2-foot layup and don't travel?" So I guess he means like a jump stop layup or something.
Well, that's what it sounds like to me too. And this is something that we teach all of our players at the school where I coach, is the fact that we are trying to get to the basket. And if we can get there with a run up and a layup finish, good. If we get there and we run into traffic and we're still close enough where we think we can score, we always make a jump stop. When we make that jump stop, what happens is that the game stops momentarily. Players stop because they don't know what you're going to do. And you make that stop, and then you're in a position where you're on both feet, you're on balance. You can up fake them and then finish. You can up fake them, turn, and kick the ball out to another player. There's a lot of things you can do when you make that two-footed jump stop. Well, a jump stop.
Yeah, I mean, if you go look at our video called Finishes at the Rim, I think we show you that, and then we show you kind of the options off of that.
Right.
So I would say go check that out. Okay. This one is from Kunal Navaji, who says, "I joined a new basketball club about 2 months back, but my teammates don't pass the ball to me, because of which I cannot play my real game. What can I do to change that?" Okay. Well, number one, when you say something about playing your real game, you have to realize you are on a team. You do not get to play necessarily the way that you want to play. It is about being a part of the team.
Exactly right.
And we actually had a video or a live show that we talked about this a while back about how to deal with ball hogs. And we talk about the fact that you are responsible for making the case that you deserve the ball. Just because you're standing there doesn't mean that you get it. You have to do some things to make it apparent that you deserve the basketball. And we talk about it in that video. So we probably won't get into it very much here, but a lot of it is moving without the ball, and kind of creating space to be open and helping create opportunities for your teammates.
Well, one of the other things I think is really important for players to understand too, other players will not take and share the ball with you if they don't trust you. And so you're thinking, well, what does that mean? What that means is if they give you the basketball and you turn it over, or you turn around and heave up a big shot because that's your game, and it's a turnover, and now the ball's going the other way, they're not going to share the ball with you. I've seen a lot of games, and unfortunately, a few of mine too, where I have a player look right at another player and turn and throw it to somebody else because they didn't want to share it with him because they didn't trust him. Okay, and so playing on a team is really about people trusting people so that you are effective and get the job done. If you're going to be a turnover machine, they don't want to give you the basketball. If you're not going to work as hard as everybody else, they don't want to give you the basketball. And so it may be rooted in more and you and what you expect and whatnot than it is in what they are doing.
Okay. So we're going to do lightning round right
All
now.
right, I'll try.
So that means short answers to your questions.
Oh,
We're going to
yeah.
try to get through a bunch of people right now. But excuse me, Daniel Mukazi says how to take charges. Let's just say
Yeah,
that.
that's what it is.
That is all about setting your feet and being in position, and then accepting the contact and basically letting them run right into you.
Yeah, you know,
You have to beat them to the spot and be set.
yeah, one of the things probably that is the most key thing to taking charges is anticipation. When I say anticipation is that you can see something developing and you know that if you get into this position early enough, you can take that charge. And so that's anticipating that they're going to do this and then getting to that spot before they do. And, you know, a lot of times players don't like to take charges because they don't like that contact. I haven't ever seen very many people really get hurt much at all from that. Once in a while, I've seen somebody go down really hard and bang their head. But other than that, I don't really see injuries that come from taking charges.
Okay, anyway, but you have to be willing to take contact.
Yeah,
You're playing
absolutely.
basketball.
Yep.
Okay, I keep seeing a bunch of questions and comments about people that are, again, asking, this height, or I play this position. Gustav Moeller, Evan Motlick, they're asking these questions, and among other people that are asking these questions about being a certain height or playing a certain position and what should they do. Again, you have no control over your height, and it really doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't
and
matter.
Number two, stop worrying about your position. That's for your coach to worry about. If you want to put yourself in the best situation possible, be an all-around really good basketball player.
Yep.
Doesn't
And
matter.
don't complain.
Doesn't matter if you're 5'2", you should know how to go in the post and post up players.
Yep.
And be good at it, and have your certain repertoire of moves. It doesn't matter if you're 6'6", you should be able to play on the perimeter. You should be able to hit shots. You should be able to hit free throws. You should also be able to go into the post. The thing is that young people especially need to get out of this situation where they are designating their positions and they're worried about their height. It is not about that.
Yeah.
Basketball is one of those things where if you can get as many skills as possible lined up for yourself, you're going to be in a much better situation than if you're just worried about developing this one aspect of it.
Very true.
So you guys don't need to ask that question anymore. It doesn't matter if you're 6'6". It doesn't matter if you're 5'4". It doesn't matter if you think you're a point guard or a center. You might go out and try out for a team and you think you're a center. Your coach might think you're playing the 3 now.
Yeah.
Hopefully you've worked on the skill set to be a basketball player and you can actually pull that off. If you haven't, you might not make the team or you might sit. That's kind of the real deal.
Yeah.
Okay. Koisas Supimpas is asking, how can I be more explosive like Westbrook? Well, number one, he is an incredible athlete. Probably a lot of that was just natural genetics. But you can work on things like our vertical jump series that we talk about how to develop your athleticism, working on things like jump rope, dot drills, ladder drills. I mean, there's a ton of things. So go check out our vertical jump series. J-Dad Neve says, I got a game next Sunday. Any tips?
Go play it and be ready.
Play your game, play within your abilities.
Yeah.
Have a positive attitude. Go check out our video on how to make the team. And those are all the qualities that we think are super important that you actually have time to make a difference doing. It's not a skill development thing. But give that a shot. Yeah. Let's see here. People, let's see. Boyd's Queen is saying, how can you play college while you play in the Netherlands? I have no idea, but I know we've talked to some coaches in the past in some of our older live shows. Mm-hmm. If you go look up those where we're talking to college coaches, some of them addressed what international players have to do to try to get noticed by United or the American colleges and stuff.
Well, one of the things that comes out of that is the fact that you make videos of yourself as a player, and then you find schools in whatever country, if you want to do it in the U.S., find schools there that you can send them to the basketball coach and let them review them.
You have to be proactive about
you
yourself.
Cannot sit and wait for them to find you if you're not in the United States, because they're not that. They are active in Europe and Asia, I'm sure, but it's not like you lived in New York City where they're everywhere.
And nobody's going to do you favors. Nobody's going to take up your cause. You have to do it yourself. And
exactly.
you have to be creative and innovative and figure it out. Amit Nathan is saying how to attack the rim. We have a huge amount of videos that talk about offensive skills. I would suggest go check out those.
Yep.
It includes dribble attacks and kind of the things you do before you actually even put the ball on the floor. So check that out. Kunal Navagi is saying how to guard players taller than you. Again, stop worrying about height. It almost doesn't matter. You have to kind of have the same approach no matter who it is.
Well, it depends on where you're playing, too. If you're playing a post and the post is bigger than you are, our answer to that is this. We don't happen to have guys that are very big in the post. We front the posts so that they can't throw the ball in. What we give up is we give up the possibility of a rebound, but we're going to take that chance rather than have a guy that is 6 inches taller than we are catch it right in front of the rim and then turn around and score. So we're trying to take that away from him. So there are some situations like that. If you're playing out facing the basket and the guy is taller than you, he probably is not as quick as you are. And if that's the case, then you want to crowd him so he has to put the ball on the floor instead of just shooting over you. Put it on the floor and make him put it on the floor going to his weak side. Those are things that help.
When it comes to defense, number one is always don't let them get the ball.
Yep.
Because if they don't get the ball, then they're going to get frustrated, and it's going to be a whole different scenario.
Hard to do, yeah.
But if they do get the ball, one thing you always want to do is beat them to the spot and just make it frustrating for them to even try to get past you. If you beat them to the spot, then they're either going to have to change their attack or they're going to run right into you, and it's going to be a charge. Mm-hmm. So that's one way to approach it. Doesn't matter how tall they are.
Yeah.
Okay, this one is from our buddy Alex JGJ, who's always around, who says, my sister wants to know how to not get nervous when stepping on the court in a game, always watching the show from Spain. Awesome. Okay. People that get nervous, it's typically because they don't have the experience, and you just have to get out there and play more. It's going to happen. And the other thing is that if your skills aren't there, then you're going to be worried about them not being there when you step out on the court.
Yeah.
So
fear of failure. Yep.
Yeah. So you really have to work on your skills and make sure they're there. The other thing is that it's okay to be nervous.
Yeah.
Most people are.
Well, and you stop and look at this from the other point of view. If you're not nervous, you're probably not going to play very well because you're not going to have your heart into it. But once your heart is pounding and your blood rate is up a little, or your heart rate is up a little bit because you are nervous, then you're probably going to be jacked up and you're ready to go. So being nervous before you play is not the worst thing in the world. One of the things that usually happens is after you're up and down the floor a couple of times, then what happens is that nervousness begins to kind of disappear and you just play.
Okay, we have one question here from Dylan McAlatin who says, what are the best drills for weak hand dribbling? Go check out our video on developing your weak hand, and we show you how to approach that, and then we show you some drills.
Just being very frank about this whole thing, the dribbles for the right hand and the left hand are exactly the same. There's not some little trick or nuance that you have for your left hand that you wouldn't use for your right hand.
Yeah.
It's just a matter that you jump in and you start schooling both hands doing the same kinds of drills. I mean, it's that simple.
Yeah, I mean, the people think that it's some weird, like, magical, mystical thing. But the thing is that your weak hand is really just not as coordinated as your strong hand, and it's a little wonky.
And we don't use it enough to make it any better either. Yeah, that's usually the problem.
Yeah, so you have to use it more to get it up to the level of your more coordinated hand.
Yeah.
And it will get there if you do the work.
Yeah.
But go check out those videos.
Yeah.
Okay, Shahid Ghaffar is saying, what is the right way to post up? Go check out our video called How to Post Up.
Yeah, I think
something like that. And we tell you how to do that.
We've got a series of playlists there on just post moves and post ups.
Okay, and we're going to answer two more questions real quick. Okay, this one is from Macmillian Mwanza, who says, I'm 5'7" and not sure where I should play. I've got the speed and quickness to defend guards and strength to stop forwards, both with great success. Okay, we've talked about this before. You shouldn't worry about that. That's your coach's problem. You just play your game. You don't need to decide where you play your position.
Let your coach decide.
I mean, it sounds like you've got some good attributes already, so just go with it.
Yeah.
Don't worry about pigeonholing yourself.
And don't worry about being 5'7".
Yeah. Let's see. There's a lot of people asking questions about how to make their shot faster or develop their pull-up jumper or whatever it is. The answer to that is you have to put in the work using these drills that we talk about. Form shooting drill is number one. Because, okay, 3 pillars of practice time, and then we're out of here. The 3 pillars of practice are diligent, purposeful work on your mechanics. So the form shooting drill would be that in that scenario, where you are working on developing the skills. You're breaking everything down, making sure that you're getting all the connecting parts so that they're working in one fluid motion. And it's just going to make your shot have the right mechanics. Then the second pillar, or the second pillar of practice, is making sure you're doing game speed, game intensity work, and you do that through visualizing the defense or bringing a defender out there, working at the speed and intensity of a game, and applying those skills that you were working on in the first pillar. And when you do that, you're going to feel like you've actually started to play in a game, and when you actually step out on the court, it'll feel like you've been there before.
Yeah.
And that you can develop using something like the spin shooting thing that we were talking about earlier, or just even working on that stuff with a partner and having them play defense on you. The third pillar is game experience and just getting out there, playing pickup games, playing on your school team, playing on your traveling team, whatever it is, applying those things that you worked on in the first 2 pillars and actually getting experience doing it.
Right.
That's how you develop your shooting, whatever it is. And Caleb Calhoun is asking, how do you work on setting up a shot faster? Learn to create space. Number 1, learning to create space will make it so that you have more open shots and you don't have to rush anything. And number 2 is having the most efficient shot possible. And that means cleaning up your mechanics so that you don't have any dips, you don't have any extra steps, you're not hopping into it, you've eliminated any hitches, there's no sticking points. It is all one fluid motion from your feet to the follow through, just like Steph Curry's shot is.
Yep.
So that is really how you get your shot faster, and it's how you get an open shot.
Well, and the whole idea, and the last thought for me is that you don't want the shot to be faster. You want it to be able to get rid of it quickly and efficiently, and that will give you the speed that you need.
Okay. I think that's going to do it for us today, you guys. We're already over. Thanks so much for all your questions.
Thanks, guys.
Hold on.
Oh,
Jeez.
okay.
If we didn't get to your question today, it's not because we don't like you. It's because we ran out of time. Make sure that you are following us on everything Shot Science. So Twitter, Facebook, Google+, subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Instagram, on Snapchat. We're doing cool things. We're doing different stuff on everything, but that's a great place to see cool stuff that we're doing and also interact with us. So follow us on all that stuff. We will see you next time, 1 p.m. Pacific time on Sunday with a new topic, and hopefully we'll be able to answer more questions, right?
Now?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
All right. See you guys later.
Thanks for joining us.
There we go.